Okay, here we go. From the lovely TA in Corning, California. And getting ready to put it to bed here. Had some more thoughts on the book of Revelations and some of the topics went over in the previous videos. And so I wanted to put some more ideas out there and mention some things maybe you've never heard of before. But going back to the book of Revelations, and there's two women mentioned. Well, there's actually a third, but that has to do with Babylon and stuff. The first woman is clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and 12 stars above her head. And like the church teaches, that's the church and the 12 apostles, which Judas was one of them, so there would only be 11. So I think that might be a description of Lady Fatima, Blessed Prophet's daughter, and then her descendants, the bloodline, he said would be the 12 imams. There's also another possibility that could have been a representation of when Israel was doing right, and it was Holy Israel, and I believe there was 12 tribes. So I'm not sure on that. I think there was 10 of Israel and 2 Judah. I'd have to refresh my memory on that. But anyway, that woman, it says, the dragon goes after her, and the remnant of her seed. So that would fit with, because all 12 imams were persecuted, and many of them were killed. I'm going to have to study on that to see, because some were in prison, some were killed. They were all persecuted. So I'm going to have to look back into that. So anyway, in the beginning of the book of Revelations, the letters go to the churches, and so it's like, who's this dragon, and going after the woman. So you look back, the letters to the churches, the one goes to the one church and says, I know you have seen those who say they are apostles and are not, and you found them to be liars. So when John wrote this, is according to the scholars I've heard, said it was like the year 100 or something, when he was in prison there. And no one's really sure who commonly referred to as John the Divine is. But surely he would have known of Paul and maybe the disciples who Paul trained up. So like in the book of the Gospel of Barnabas, Barnabas says Paul had been deceived by Satan. So maybe that's what that reference is to. It could fit today to any of these TV preachers, I'll tell you that for sure. But also maybe since the popes say they're the direct lineage of Peter, and he was supposedly the first pope and stuff, which I really doubt that he would have settled in Rome. But and the Vatican itself wasn't always there. Constantine, and when he legalized Christianity in the Roman Empire, had moved the capital Constantinople anyway, and then it was a break-off group who went back to form the Vatican and stuff. So anyhow, you would have these false apostles, false Christians, and then there's another letter to another church that says, I know you've seen those who say they are Jews and who are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So we know when Jesus preached to some of the scribes and stuff, he told them their father, the devil. And there's another verse in the gospel that's in the Bible that says, all of who say they are of Israel are not of Israel. So you have these false apostles and false Christians, and then you have these false Jews, which are referred to the Jews or the synagogue of Satan. So maybe if the woman is supposed to be representative of holy Israel and the tribes, then maybe it's the Roman Empire and the false Christians and the false Jews who are attacking those who followed Jesus, who was there to reestablish the faith and save the Jewish people, or what would be left of the Israelites, from the onslaught of the Roman army. So there's one possible deal there. Relevant to today is if you watch Imran Hussein, he's got some videos that he talks about a verse in the Quran that says not to take Christians and Jews who are friends to each other as friends and allies. And it's only a common in the modern day where you see, especially from American evangelicals, the alliance with Israel and the people they influence in our government to back Israel on every little thing and give Israel all kinds of billions of dollars a year and stuff. So maybe there was that type of alliance back then who were persecuting the real Christians, because remember, before Paul supposedly became a follower, he used to hunt down Christians and kill them, and I'm assuming he was hunting down the real Christians, the monotheist ones, the ones that did not, call Jesus God or believe in the Trinity. So I believe John is talking about, or all the revelation that's coming to him is talking about those Trinity Christians, and possibly the Pope in the allegiance with Rome. And then also those Jews who were also persecuting the true Christians, and maybe even, because there's a lot of Christians who there's also theology out there. Jesus came to make everybody Jewish, and there's a lot of Christians, especially evangelicals, will say, they're Jewish the Jesus way or something like that. But so maybe it was a letter to those there, pointing the finger at those Christians who say they had been made Jews by Jesus or something. But anyhow, you can see that there was falsehood back there, and it was called the synagogue of Satan. So then you see this conglomeration, these alliances of satanic forces persecute the woman and the remnant of her seed. So clearly you can see, if it was the remnant of holy Israel and the seed of Israel, you could see the Jewish people have really paid a price through history, especially from the Roman Catholic persecutions and the Spanish Inquisition and all those types of things. And then it also fits that if it's supposed to be an allusion to Lady Fatima and her descendants, they were also persecuted. Sadly enough, not only, like I mentioned, the Crusaders, but there were also those of, and who even the Sunni, what you would call Sunnis now today, who would say were terrible people that were Muslim, who persecuted and went after and killed descendants of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and peace be upon them. Most famously, Imam Hussein, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them both. So I don't know if those people had any allegiance. I'd have to look if those who went after Imam Hussein had any allegiance with the remnants of the Roman Empire at that time. So clearly there's things, if we figure a timeline or part of the timeline, like, as I know later on when it says, and the serpent went to, there was a woman about to give birth to a male child who would rule the nations with a rod of iron. Almost 100% sure that would be the birth of Imam al-Mahdi. And his mother was also persecuted by other Muslims, and they were trying to discover if she was pregnant. And I'm not sure what the timeline on that was, what year exactly that was, and whereabouts the Crusades were around that time. But clearly the revelation and of John says, this is all this persecution is all of the devil, and called the great dragon, which curiously made me, I just remembered that guy Vlad the Impaler, commonly known as Dracula. Wasn't he of the house of Dragos or something? Don't that mean dragon? And he also persecuted and killed Muslims. So that might figure into the timeline somewhere also. And supposedly, according to the things I've seen about it, when after he had been buried for a while, they dug up his grave and they found the bones of an animal in there. So that's a pretty curious thing there. But he was of the house of Drago or Dragons or something like that, or that was their family crest or something. So there's all these things here. Like I said, it takes some time, and it would take some like mapping out on a sheet of paper, making a timeline and all these types of things, and having the text right in front of you, and to cross-reference, with the Gospel of Barnabas, what's not contaminated in the Bible and of the Holy Quran and the Hadith. So, as far as I talked about the smoke and the pit being open and the locusts and stuff. Crossed my mind. Some people, think it has to be nuclear war and all this that makes the sun darken and the moon look red. They always say it's from the everything kicked up by the dust and everything from a nuclear war. Doesn't have to be that if that, because it says that the pit is open, it's a fiery furnace and smoke goes out and stuff. So if a giant fissure were to open up, anywhere there's oil in the world, if you drive through there in Midland, Texas, I'm sure all through the Gulf and the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia and every place there's oil being produced and natural gas, you can smell the sulfur in the air. So if a giant fissure was to open up where there was large deposits of this oil, which seems to be, in a lot of places around the earth, and some molten lava, magma, was to get in there and ignite it. It seems to me there's plenty, because we pumped a sea of that stuff out of the ground there's no telling how much more there's in there. Now, if that was to ignite and there be an open fissure, I'm sure that could produce enough smoke to blacken the sky and, just be a horrible, horrible thing. If you remember back when Saddam Hussein, set all the oil wells on fire and stuff and everything, how black the sky was there. A lot of people thought that was part of the apocalypse. And it might fit in the timeline somewhere. But, we know how much stuff a volcano can put out. So it doesn't have to be a nuclear war that all this, the smoke and the trees burning and everything is from. It makes you wonder, there's all this oil we're pumping out of the ground and everything. Maybe it's got a use to be in the ground. And by us pumping it out, we're messing something up somewhere. I remember I was reading the Gospel of Barnabas, and Jesus, peace be upon him, said to the people, the earth floats on water. So I know, science teaches us we're all in a big ball, and they don't think about drilling and stuff because it's just going to go towards the center of the earth, and they say that's, thousands and thousands of miles thick, and we're never going to go through the whole thing. But what if it's not? And what if this layer of oil under the earth, between the earth and, because oil floats on water, maybe it's to help keep everything afloat in some way, or I don't know, keep the waters from penetrating upward. Because like I said in one of the other videos, there's the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said there'd be a great sinking. And Jesus, peace be upon him, in the Gospels, in the Bibles, talked about the seas will rage. And in the Gospel of Barnabas, he said the waters will go, according to the translators, a mile high. What the actual figure is, I don't know. But, so maybe we messed something up to cause that. And the same thing with them shooting stuff up into the heavens there, and sending probes crashing into stuff and everything. Do we really think we know enough that we're not going to knock something out of balance that we shouldn't be messing with? I don't think we've got that far in our knowledge of everything to where we should be taking. I mean, when they lit off the first atomic bombs, there were scientists who were afraid it could ignite the whole atmosphere, and they did it anyway. So there's a lot of these science guys and stuff and everything who, they might be great minds and know a lot of stuff, but they don't know everything. There's no telling, if they could. It's same with this genetics and genetically modifying food and stuff. You have to figure our Creator, who knows everything, made the food. If he made it, it's good enough. Stop messing with the food. If you read the scriptures, there's famines and stuff that happen and stuff. How do you know you're not the trigger of all these famines and stuff, and the mutations in insects and things, and pestilence, by messing with things? Leave stuff alone. One of the imams, a scholar I was listening to, said, if you broke down knowledge into 27 parts, that we know 2 parts. And, Jesus, peace be upon him, said knowledge will be increased. But, that knowledge was increased when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, came, and the revelation of the Quran. A lot of knowledge was increased then. So we know a lot of things, and we do a lot of things, but there's a lot of things, we have to look at our ethics, whether it's medical science or this astronomical science and our physics, and what the physicists are doing. And, there's a lot we could be messing with that we don't really understand. But anyway, So, like that, you think of that well that went awry in the Gulf of Mexico, that Horizon. They were worried they might not get that thing capped. There's a lot of people saying, well, what if you can't? And that thing just keeps spewing. Well, one of these days, they're probably going to have something that they can't get control back of. A fissure will open or something. They'll drill in the wrong spot, and then, it's possible. It is very, very possible. So, I think we should use a lot more care before we go messing with stuff, especially the food and shooting probes up into all kinds of things and stuff. It's how do you know they don't shoot some probe up there into the sun and make it go awry and cause stuff to burn? But anyhow, so those are those things there. About the timeline and the possibility of what alliances, when it says the dragon is pursuing these women, who are the women, and what alliance is made up the dragon that's pursuing them and persecuting and killing. The other things I wanted to mention was Imran Hussein also gives a video of, or a lecture where he talks about the jinn are going to, and if you don't know out there, the jinn are what Christians commonly refer to, as the fallen angels. Angels don't fall. Angels are obedient servants of God. There were creatures other than the angels called jinn, and Satan is their chief. They're his legions. The jinn, you all know the word genie, and but it's not all fun and games like that. The jinn are out to do you harm. So anyway, Imran Hussein says that at a certain point, the jinn are going to be able to appear as people's dead relatives, like they've come back to life. And he said that's really going to mislead the Hindus who believe in that reincarnation stuff, and I believe the Buddhists do also. I think the Dalai Lama is. They had a kid born who they said was like the 10th reincarnation of somebody or something. Anyhow, so that also reminded me when he gave that lecture of I forget if it's him or another scholar was telling a story. There was one of the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, was guarding, the warehouse of the Muslims where they had food and clothes gathered for new believers and stuff. And he caught a man stealing, and the man begged him to let him go. He said he was really poor and he needed food for his family, so he let him go. And then the guy came back another night and he let him be begged, and he let him go again. And then like the third night, when it happened and he let him go, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was there, and he asked him, what was that about and everything. So he told him, and he says that wasn't a man, that was a jinn. So, and I've heard in other lectures, that the jinn can appear as people. We know that angels can. The angel Jibril appeared as a man. So we know the angels can, but according to this story here, that the jinn can, and that they can appear as animals and stuff too. So that gave me a thought too of Native Americans say there's these things called skinwalkers, and they're supposed to be like medicine men who are shamans and stuff who said they could turn to animals and different things and stuff and everything. And it's if you look it up, it's called skinwalkers. So, and that also made me think of, you got all the aliens people see and the grays and this and that and shadow people and things like this. I think this stuff is all jinn. These are all jinn doing things. So, and the jinn especially, from what the scholar said, was they're attracted to music and types of, perversion and stuff. So any place, strip clubs and all that and everything, and loud music and nudity and stuff. And I'm sure there's plenty of them out there in Hollywood and up where they make the pornography. They're probably involved in all of that stuff. But that also gave, I'm sure there's some of them too, with these faith healers out there too. Definitely, with Benny Hinn and people like that. I'm sure there's plenty of them hanging around that kind of stuff too. But like Imran Hussein was talking about Gog and Magog, and he thinks they're out, and I was saying how they'd be in power and stuff and everything like that. And behind a lot of this stuff, I think the jinn are right there running along with all that stuff, and not only in places of power and stuff and everything, and then like since like the Illuminati and all that stuff, and the people say the Freemasons, at a certain level or have satanic rituals and stuff. Well, if they do, you can bet the jinn and stuff are involved in all that kind of stuff, because the jinn are Satan's legions. So any place any of that kind of stuff is going on, all the occult stuff, I'm thinking most definitely all this UFO stuff and aliens and people seeing aliens and stuff could all be related to that. And like Imran Hussein says, one day, they'll appear as, people's dead relatives, and most definitely they're probably, when they do that, they're probably going to be like, oh, don't go to Islam and stuff, it'll be to lead people away. And he says, that's the Hindus are really going to be deceived. But that also made me think about, what about these stories of people that die on the operating table and then come back? And tell these tall tales about how they went to heaven and this and that and everything, like, and they saw Jesus and they saw God and all this kind of stuff. I know a lot of it's just, their brain chemistry or whatever playing tricks on them, but it also made me think of, well, what if they really died and a jinn took over, and a jinn's coming back telling all that stuff to mislead people? So I don't know about all these things. I'd have to really start looking and studying it, but like I said, it's hard to study everything at once, and especially this job. But I'm sure there are Islamic scholars out there who have studied this kind of stuff. I really wish Imran Hussein would read the Gospel of Barnabas and do lectures on the Book of Revelations. So if anyone out there knows how to contact Imran Hussein, and maybe he doesn't know the Gospel of Barnabas and connections to the Book of Revelations, but in the end times, he should definitely look into it. What else? All them sightings of Bigfoot and stuff, that could be jinn too. I don't know, but I wouldn't doubt there could be some kind of ape creature walking around somewhere or something. But it's been seen for centuries. It's not a modern phenomenon like UFOs and stuff. And well, they say even those have been seen for centuries. But anyhow, there's a lot of topics when you start studying that you can become really interesting to you. So I don't know why people shy away from religion. There's so much information and things no one's ever heard of or thought about before that just a wealth of information and eye-opening material. What else? There was something else I wanted to go over. No, I think that about covered everything I thought about today. Was who the possibilities of the descriptions of the women in the book of Revelations could be, who the dragon and the elite alliances of the dragon could be. It's kind of like who's who, but it's all connected. If you go back and look and you do some detective work, I'm sure it could be mapped out to a certain degree, and then Mystery of Babylon and stuff, and there's like a city destroyed, and the people stand afar off going, whoa, what city is like this, and everything too. I mean, some of this stuff could be referring to back, like when Rome burned and Nero blamed the Christians and stuff. Some people say Mystery Babylon, is the Catholic Church, and that'll be the Vatican. Others, say, America's the modern Babylon, and others say Israel is, and so it's another part of the story. I'm gonna have to go reread the book of Revelations when I get a chance. And then there's beasts and stuff. Clearly in our time, Hitler could be seen as a beast, a Nazi. And that's another thing, like as far as loving your country and being patriotic, there's nothing wrong with that up to a degree. But the Nazis were the most patriotic people there have ever been. So there's a point to where your patriotism can take you down a dark road. And I'm not saying any, you're talking about Trump supporters and loving your country, and you want to side with them football people and not take a knee or not stand up. No, it ain't anything like that. I'm just saying we live in dangerous times. There are people that get you riled up, like after 9/11. That's another thing I'm going to talk about. All the propaganda. I'm gonna end this one here. It's been and I'll start on another one, but be on the propaganda and a lot of the ridiculous stuff you've been told about 9/11 and about Muslims. Okay, so that'll do it for this one there. Wish you all the best. Be safe out there. If you're a driver, get home safely to your family, and we'll talk to you on the next one. All right, adios.